When should you start learning to play the violin? Keep watching to find out. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher currently based in New Jersey. I've been playing the violin for over 20 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm a Suzuki trained teacher. If you're enjoying my videos, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. And if you're interested in working with me more closely, then you can apply for private lessons via the link in the description, or join the waitlist for my self-paced, flexible online learning program, Learn Violin Online, which is in the description as well. So when should you start learning to play violin or any instrument? Well, there's different schools of thought and different opinions, like with everything. Those who strictly follow the Suzuki method argue that students should start as young as 3. The argument for this is that children's brains are extremely malleable. They learn and soak up everything so quickly. Their brains are like little sponges. If they are taught great technique, if they're taught the basics of how to play well when they're extremely young, that will greatly benefit their musical career throughout their lives. Crazy fact is that 90% of a child's brain develops by the age of 5. And after that, it's certainly not impossible to learn, but it does get harder. So if you can start your child at 3 or 4, that's going to massively benefit them in the long run. Now, I'm not saying this is the route for everybody. I understand it is hard. Having taught children as young as 2.5 myself, there are certainly challenges. One, obviously they have a shorter attention span, and children that are 3 or 4 are probably only taking like 15-minute lessons. Additionally, they're not only learning how to play the violin in their lessons, they're learning how to take a lesson. They're learning how to pay attention, how to focus, how to stay on task, how to follow directions. So the teacher, while yes, they're teaching them violin, they're also just teaching them basic skills of being a human, which is totally to be expected at that age. And it also requires a lot of parental involvement. A 3 or 4-year-old is more than likely not going to ask you if they can go practice their violin. You have to be the one to stick them on a schedule, to practice with them, to help them, but they are more than capable of playing the violin at a high level. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I'm sure you probably have too. Just look up like 5-year-old prodigies on YouTube, and it's enough to make you want to quit. Now, in my personal experience, girls do develop and mature a bit faster than boys. I would say girls are usually ready by age 3. Boys, you might have to wait till age 4, but obviously every child is different. Now, from my personal experience, my favorite age to start is anywhere from like 5 to 7. I feel like kids at this age, they've started going to school, so they understand, how to learn, how to listen, how to follow directions. They're easier to communicate with just because they're older. They can take the longer 30-minute lessons because they can focus better. And they're still quite young. They can still learn at a very fast pace. At this age, yes, the parent is going to have to be involved as well, and is still going to have to help the child, but definitely not as much as they would if the child was 3. I also feel like parents are more eager, I guess, or more understanding to start their kid when they're about 5 to 7, just because they are going to school, they have that level of independence. Kids are a bit older, a bit more independent, and already in the process of learning other things at school, so they have a bit of experience with that. I don't think I've ever had a complete beginner that was in the like 10 to 12-ish range, so I don't have any personal experience with that. However, I would say that if you want to someday become a professional musician, that age of 10 to 12 is probably the very latest that you could start. It's still going to be extremely hard to progress to the level that you need to be. Just think about it, right? If you start at 10 versus someone who started at 3, they already have 7 years of experience under their belt. And it's just hard to catch up. Also, children do start having a bit more like tension in their bodies. It becomes a bit harder for them to change their fine motor skills. Just a bit harder to learn, although certainly not impossible. I have had a few students that started when they're in high school, and they do learn at a bit of a slower rate than the younger kids. They in general have a lot more tension, and if they don't have any prior musical experience, able to hear the pitches is harder. Being able to remember where to place your fingers is harder Being able to learn how to read music is harder. Again, certainly not impossible, but it definitely, from my experience, the progress is slower if you start when you're a teenager. And if you start when you're an adult, you can certainly learn to play the violin at a high level. It's just going to take several years. It's going to take several years for anybody, right? But again, if you start at 20 versus someone who started at 5, they already have those 15 years of experience, which is a lot of hours of practicing in there. Let me be clear. I think that you can learn to play the violin at any age, no matter if you're 3 or 73. Your goals just have to be different, right? If you start when you're an adult, you probably aren't going to be the concertmaster of the New York Philharmonic, but that's totally fine. If you're just playing to enjoy it and to learn a new skill and have a new hobby, then who cares? If you're curious, I started playing the violin when I was 7, but I had played piano before that. I started playing piano when I was 5. To sum up, I don't think there's a perfect age to start playing the violin. I think it's very highly dependent on the child and the circumstances. But I think an ideal age is around 5 or 6. If you have very big musical high hopes for your child and you are willing to put in that work to practice with them, then the younger the better. 3, 3.5, 4. If you can do it, I would. But I know that that's not why every parent gets into it, right? They just want their child to have a hobby and to enjoy it and to love it. I know when my mom started me on violin, she never dreamed that I'd become a violinist, but here we are. When did you start learning to play the violin? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching.